According to Goethe, if any man wishes to write in a clear style, let him be first clear in his thoughts, and if any would write in a noble style, let him first possess a noble soul. Pleasant day to all of you. Today, we are going to learn the basic principles of persuasive writing. Let me tell you first what persuasive writing is. In persuasive writing, a writer takes a position for or against an issue and writes to convince the reader to believe or do something. Persuasive writing is often used in advertisements to get the reader to buy a product, and other types of writing to get the reader to accept point of view. In order to convince the reader, you need more than opinion. You need facts or examples to back your opinion. We need to remember that persuasive writing is writing that sets out to influence or change an audience's thoughts or actions. In addition, persuasive writing, also known as the argument essay, utilizes logic and reason to show that one idea is more legitimate than another idea. It attempts to persuade a reader to adopt a certain point of view or to take a particular action. The argument must always use sound reasoning and solid evidence by stating facts, giving logical reasons, using examples, and quoting experts. A simple sentence like, "I can't offer that price," have a lot of meaning. It depends on the word you emphasize. This is on how are you going to persuade people. If you say, "I can't offer you that price," you can say that someone can do that. But if you say, "I can't offer you that price," and then there's no way of reducing price. But when you emphasize, "I can't offer you that price," but somebody can offer someone else. And when you also say, "I can't offer you that price," I could offer a good price. We are subjected to persuasion every day from the time we wake up until the time we go to bed. When we turn on our radio, are we listening to CBC or some local station? Which paper do we read while drinking our morning coffee? Philippine Daily Inquirer, Manila Bulletin, or Manila Times? Whenever we buy a product or use a service, our choice has likely been influenced by a persuasive marketing ad. There are, of course, many occupations where persuasion is a skill used on an everyday basis. Lawyers, teachers, clergy members, and journalists are just a few. The point is that understanding persuasive strategies can help us in two very important ways. The first one, knowing these strategies helps us analyze the strategies other people are using to persuade us, and this way we can protect ourselves when, for example, unethical marketers are trying to take advantage of us. The second one is, knowing these strategies helps us to choose which is the most effective way to persuade an audience. How do we get then others to accept our point of view? These are by appealing to their reason, by appealing to their emotions, and by the appeal of our good character. Remember that an argument is an appeal to a person's sense of reason. It is not a violent fight, dispute, or disagreement. It is a measured, logical way of trying to persuade others to agree with you. One critical thing to remember that there are at least two sides to every issue. If you take the attitude that there's only one side, your side, you will quite likely alienate your reader. You need, then, to choose one side of an issue clearly in an effort to persuade others. If you are unsure of your own stance, How can you expect other people to assess, understand, and be convinced by your position? In the issue, should my father stop smoking? If your position is yes, there are questions you may ask. Your reasoning skills often depend on what we call common sense. Ask yourself the following questions. Do I have enough evidence? Is it sufficient? Will my audience believe my evidence? Or is it trustworthy? What are the assumptions built into my argument? And are those assumptions fair? And finally, you can ask this question. Does my conclusion follow logically from the claims I make? We should then take note that there are two basic types of reasoning processes, the deduction and the induction. In deduction, it begins with a general principle or premise and draws a specific conclusion from it. For example, all people who smoke endanger their health. This will be your major premise. And your minor premise, my father smokes. Your conclusion should be, therefore, my father is endangering his health. Question is this a strong argument? Well, of course, you need to offer evidence in support of your claims. It may be impossible to prove a cause-effect link between my father's smoking and his declining health. And the other issues you may bring in to support your argument are the following: secondhand smoke or impact on family and friends, and the staggering number of people over 60 years old who die from lung cancer. The other process, which is induction, supports a general conclusion by examining specific facts or cases. Example, if I was to argue that my father was endangering his health, I might cite specific symptoms, like his teeth are yellowish and he has lost a considerable amount of weight. He is no longer able to cycle his 25-kilometer every morning. And whenever he exerts himself physically, he ends up coughing extremely hard. There are still other logical appeals. You could cite smoking, cancer statistics, authority in the form of the Surgeon General, financial cost, etc. In appealing to emotion, the logical appeal is certainly an extremely persuasive tool. However, our human nature also lets us be influenced by our emotions. One way of evoking emotion in your reader is to use vivid images. To give an example to my father who smokes, I quote, "I remember when Grandma died of lung cancer, it was the first time I had ever seen you cry, Dad. I remember that you also made me promise not to start smoking." Be careful, however, that when you use emotional appeal, you use it legitimately. You should not use it as a substitute for logical and/or ethical appeals. Don't use emotional appeals to draw on stereotypes or manipulate our emotional fears. Don't use emotional appeal to get an automatic knee-jerk reaction from someone. Because if you use emotionally charged language or examples simply to upset or anger an audience, you are using emotion illegitimately. Your use of emotional appeal shouldn't oversimplify a complicated issue. The last answer on the question, how do we get others to accept our point of view, is by the appeal of our good character. The appeal of your ethics can occur on one or more of the following levels in any given argument. Are you a reasonable person? That is, are you willing to listen, compromise, concede points? Are you authoritative? Are you experienced and or knowledgeable in the field you are arguing in? Are you an ethical or moral person? Is what you're arguing for ethically sound or morally right? And are you concerned for the well-being of your audience? To what extent will you benefit as a result of arguing from your particular position? The ethical appeal is based on the audience's perception of the speaker. Therefore, the audience must trust the speaker in order to accept the arguments. Do not overlook ethical appeal, as it can be the most effective of the three. I do hope that you have learned something about persuasive writing for today with regards to its definition and the two very important ways if we understand persuasive strategies and how do we get others to accept our point of view. Do not forget these three things: appealing to their reason, appealing to their emotions, and by the appeal of our good character.